folks, it's Lucy with Ballyhoo Creations, and in this episode, vlog number 5 of my machine embroidery vlog, I'm going to talk about needles for your embroidery machine. And I'm going to use this little gadget here, which is a macro lens for my cell phone camera, to get really up close to these needles and do a comparison between different brands, different sizes, metallics versus embroidery versus universal. So let me show you up close. Okay, what kind of embroidery machine needles can you use? You can use any kind of needle in your embroidery machine. The shank here at the top of the needle that fits into your machine, it's the same between a home sewing machine and a home embroidery machine or a commercial embroidery machine. They all use the same system of needles. So you can use any type of needle, it will fit into your machine. And the length of the needle is pretty standard. There are some commercial sewing machines, like industrial machines, that use different types of needles, or sergers may also use a little bit longer needle, but for our embroidery machines and sewing machines, they're interchangeable. They'll all fit each other. You don't have to buy a Singer needle to fit in a Singer machine. That's not really how it works, although Singer might like you to think that. They will all fit, mix and match. The difference is what type of needle you're using for your project. If you're doing embroidery, you should stick with embroidery needles unless you have a special need like a metallic or a larger needle or something like that. Sometimes you want a ballpoint or a knit stretch jersey needle for stretch fabric, so you can change that around. They'll all fit in your embroidery machine. There's nothing special, but you do want to make sure that you have plenty of embroidery needles, typically a size 11. And something interesting, if you do have a macro lens on your cell phone, here's something to note. There's a tiny little stamp on the shank of each needle that tells you what the needle is. This is a Schmetz 7511, and then they also have a color code, which is not universal, it's brand specific. Red for Schmetz means an embroidery needle. And then it's also worth noting, if you're new to machine needles, there's a flat side on the back. That's the back of the needle, which is flat, and that needs to go in your machine a particular way. And all the needles will have that flat side and fit in your machine the same way. Nothing special about that. So let's look at a comparison between two different needles here, a universal sewing machine needle and an embroidery needle. And the first thing I'm going to show you is I turned them on its side so you can see the scarf. The scarf right here is where the bobbin will come in, and it's like someone took a bite out of the back of the needle. I can't even get it turned over anymore, but the embroidery needle has a bigger scarf, different shape, to make sure that you don't shred your threads while you're embroidering. They're a little bit magnetized because I've got them sitting on a magnet here. And it's really hard to see, even with this really close-up shot, but this one's a little bit deeper. And then if I flip them over, the eyes of these needles, you really can't tell the difference. At least I find it very difficult. The one on the right, over here, this is the embroidery needle, and this is the universal sewing needle. Not a huge difference on the front, but I believe the embroidery needle has more of a groove here on the front where the thread rides. It's a little bit shaped differently to hold the thread in place. So that's the difference between a universal and an embroidery needle. Now let's look at different brands of embroidery needles. These are all size 11 embroidery needles. Let's look at the points of them. I have, let's see, an organ needle here, Klasse here, and a Schmetz here. And do you notice anything different about them? I'm going to kind of move them around so that the light will catch them a little bit differently. The eyes all look very similar, the points all look very similar. I have noticed that the Schmetz does look a little bit thinner than the Klasse in the middle and the organ on the right. Klasse looks kind of a little beefier. And let me see if I can get that picture of the groove there. Yeah. So I don't know, the Klasse and the organ look a little bit beefier than the Schmetz. I don't know if that's just a trick of what I'm seeing here, but it might be the case. I do prefer using the organ. I haven't used the Klasses that much, but they're a little bit wider. If you see, right around the eye, see how it kind of widens out right there? So there is a little bit of difference between the brands. You have to try them and see what you think works best for you. And then as far as regular or gold needles, because these are both Schmetz needles for embroidery, size 11. This one is a regular needle and this one is the gold, is what they're called, a gold version. And I'll try to show you a picture of the package as well. They do cost more, the gold, because they're coated in a titanium nitride coating. And people think that they're stronger. They're not actually stronger. They can snap just like the regular ones. The difference with the gold coating is they stay sharper longer, so they don't dull as quickly. They say they'll last 6 times as long. I don't know if that's true. I think for most of us, we end up breaking needles long before they get too dull. I don't know. Your mileage may vary, but that's the difference between, again, same brand, same size. They look exactly the same except for the color difference, and that's the titanium nitride coating, which makes it stay sharp longer. At least that's what they tell us. And then if we look at metallic needles, if you've ever tried to embroider with a metallic thread and tried to use your embroidery needle, you know it's a disaster. So this is the embroidery needle here. These are both, let's see, I have to look at them. These are both a size 14 embroidery. Sorry, this one's the embroidery needle on the right side, and this one is a metallic needle, not special for embroidery, just a metallic needle, which you can use for embroidery. You can see the metallic needle has a huge eye compared to the embroidery needle. Even though they're both a size 14, this one's got a much longer eye. It also has a different shaped scarf in the back. I'm not sure if I can get it turned around to show, but I will try. It's a longer, longer scarf in the back to make sure the thread hooks on there correctly from the bobbin. And these also, metallic needles have a Teflon coating to make the metallic thread glide better and to keep it from heating up. So it really does make a difference. I do know for sure that if you're using metallic thread, using a metallic needle makes a huge difference versus an embroidery needle. So this one is definitely, you can see it, and you'll also very much notice it when you're stitching things out. And then to do a size comparison, these are all Klasse needles, not necessarily embroidery, but I'm going to show you the size difference. This one is a size 11. This is a size 14 here. And this one is a size 18, and it's not an embroidery needle, it's a universal size 18, but I'm just showing you how the eye is much larger as you go up in size, and also the size of that shank. Am I saying that? No, the shank is the thing that goes into the machine, the shaft, and I get those confused all the time. I think a lot of people do. We say shank instead of shaft. The shaft is this long part of the needle here. That's the shaft, and it has the groove going down the front. And you can see that shaft is much wider in the size 18 than it is in the size 11 and 14. So that's what the size of needle actually refers to, is the width of that shaft. And then typically you will get a larger eye as well. So that's the different sizes. So which needle should you choose? Well, it really depends on your project. If you're doing regular embroidery, then the 7511 embroidery needle is going to serve you very well. Choose the brand that you have access to. A lot of times you find the Schmetz in the stores, and that's what we end up buying because they're readily available. If I'm ordering them, I do like the organ needles. I'm having a good time with those. They're not breaking on me. And I also, something else to consider, they come in this paper packaging and have that little foil wrapper that looks like Wrigley's gum. I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. And I like the sustainable packaging of this. Yeah, this is very little plastic in all of these little cases, but you know, every little bit helps. So I like organ that they have the paper wrapping, and it feels more sustainable to me. So I'm buying those. Having good time with those. I'm going to put all my needles back and put them back in this little case that I then hang up on my pegboard, and that's all I've got. If you have any questions about needles, leave a comment down below. I'll see if I can help out, or maybe even make another video if there are a lot of questions. I'm making these machine embroidery videos every week, so tune in to this YouTube channel and I will tell you everything I know about machine embroidery. Have a good week.